Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu-alaikum. Jiayanu, Pakhairagale, Nihao, Chunashumme, Washmale. Ohio gozaimasu. Guten Morgen. Hola, Boyor, Privyet, Kaifa hal? Hale Shuma Chatore, Ahlan Wasalan Marhaba, Buna, Mucho, Gracias, Suavia, Balli Kereaya. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You're definitely watching World this morning alongside the very fantastic, amazing, superb, on top of his energy. Ladies and gentlemen, the name happens to be Shahzad Hassan Khan, and I hope and pray that everybody is ready to get started with their day on this very fine Monday over here in Islamabad with me and my entire team. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome. But to get started, I think a lot of people now are realizing that, there's a sudden change in the weather, because the last 2 nights, I literally had to turn on my fan and I was still feeling a little warm, and it was just because of the fact that we are transitioning into, or finally we have transitioned into, summers as well. We're wearing these suits now, ladies and gentlemen. Is going to be a little difficult, but I think as the duty calls, you really need to be prepared for your duty and for the kind of service you render to the people you work with. Ladies and gentlemen, talking about that, I think there's been this one very amazing, fantastic rule I've been following all my life, and I was supposed to do so just because of the fact that I've seen my father do that as well. So no matter what happens, what kind of condition you are in, probably all you need to do is that if Allah has bestowed His opportunity onto you and Allah is blessing you with a lot of work, make sure that you get up, dress up and show up. That's all you're supposed to do. The rest, inshallah, I think what we need to do as Muslims is to have faith in Allah and believe in Allah, and everything's going to be turning out to be positive as well. But to get started, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, it's the third day of the second test in between Pakistan versus Australia. The first one ended up in a draw, and a lot of people had to say a lot of things about the pitch we prepared. I know, in fact, everybody knows that it's dry, the bounce is low, there's lesser variation which the bowlers can get through as well. But unfortunately, talk about that. All right, so, with the 6 sessions, ladies and gentlemen, in 2 days, Australia was at 505 just before getting started with the third day. Now they have actually gone up to 509. I guess while we speak, the match is on National Stadium, Karachi, and we're telecasting it on PTV Sports Live as well. But what I was not able to comprehend was that what is Australia doing? And, I think what I'm believing in is that what they wanted to do was to set up a big score so that they do not have to bat first. And on the third day, the pitch can be really tricky. And then we do have a surprise element where we are going to talk about Swepson, a leg spinner, ladies and gentlemen, 150 domestic wickets as well. And we now have to think whether we should have made Mahmood debut his test career as well. We didn't do that, but we have struggled with the off spin and we have struggled with the left arm orthodox. But let's see, may the best team win. All we want, all Pakistanis want, ladies and gentlemen, is a result-oriented test match. We do not want pitches which actually show or exhibit our timid mindset. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, where I said timid mindset, let's talk about the positive mindset, because Cristiano Ronaldo happens to be one of those footballers who has scored more goals than anybody else in the history of football. Wow, this is what you call GOAT, greatest of all times. Manchester United forward Cristiano Ronaldo etched his name in the record books as professional football's all-time leading scorer with 807 goals after a brilliant hat-trick against Premier League rivals Tottenham Hotspur. The all-time top goal scorer title in football is much contested, and FIFA does not keep an official record, but the world governing body estimates that the Austro-Czech Jose Bican netted 805 goals during a career that lasted from 1931 to 1955. And right after that, Ronaldo's 12th minute opener at Old Trafford was a superb strike from distance that helped him equal the record. The Portugal international then went past Bican with a tap in from Jadon Sancho's neat pass to put United 2-1 in front before powerfully heading home his third to spark wild celebrations in the stands as United won 3-2. It was the 59th hat-trick of Ronaldo's career and his first for the Old Trafford side since 2008 following his return. Wow, what a majestic player, ladies and gentlemen, he is, always making sure that he's working harder. And just yesterday he even tweeted a picture on Twitter where it was his son and him playing football, and he said the past and the present, and it was wonderful. And We really need to learn from these athletes. The kind of disciplined life they lead, ladies and gentlemen, has to shape quite a lot with the rest of the world as well. But very quickly, I think now that debate does not exist, where people were always talking about whether Messi was a better player or Ronaldo. Obviously, the player who scored the most goals is the perfect example of being the perfect role model for people out there within the football field or maybe outside it as well, because he's one of those most majestic, amazing players who've actually definitely have had a positive impact on the rest of the world, and the most followed on social media as well. Very quickly, moving on towards OIC meeting, ladies and gentlemen, which is supposed to be, I think what we really need to do in the first place is to kind of take you towards the visuals where we're talking about OIC meeting. And I certainly want to kind of let you know what will be happening in the OIC meeting, because arrangements have been finalized, ladies and gentlemen, for the 48th meeting of OIC Foreign Ministers Council to be held on 22nd and 23rd of this month in Islamabad. Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi chaired a high-level meeting in Islamabad in this regard. Foreign Secretary Sohail Mahmood, Special Foreign Secretary Raza Bashir, Foreign Office spokesperson Asim Iftikhar, and other senior officers of the Foreign Ministry attended the meeting. The heads of the different committees of the Foreign Ministry briefed the meeting about the security arrangements. Speaking on the occasion, the Foreign Minister said, "It's a great honor for Pakistan to host 48th OIC Foreign Ministers meeting." He said Pakistan is once again going to be the center of international attention in terms of diplomacy. Wow. And that's just wonderful. All right, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, moving on, where Pakistan definitely wishes and aspires to be a polio-free country. An anti-polio campaign has been going on, and we certainly are expecting to yield some wonderful results. A 5-day anti-polio campaign begins in 6 southern districts of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The districts include Banu, Lucky Marwat, North Waziristan, South Waziristan, Tank, and Dera Ismail Khan. According to the Emergency Operations Center, more than 1.7 million children up to 5 years of age will be administered an anti-polio vaccine. More than 5,000 teams will administer anti-polio drops to the children in the door-to-door campaign. Polio teams will also be available at railway stations, bus stands, and other public places. The government has made strict arrangements for security of the polio teams. Wow, wonderful. So just one simple thing, and that is that please make sure that, whenever a polio worker is at your doorstep, make sure that, because it's getting hotter, make sure that you offer them water and make sure that you get your children vaccinated. It's really very important for the future of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, and for all of those controversy theories which exist. I have had these polio drops, my children have had them, and there's no other problem which you can finally kind of come across in terms of if you are vaccinated or if you have had the polio vaccine drops as well. So please make sure that you do not say such things. Whenever the polio vaccine guy is at your door, make sure if your children are not vaccinated, please look at my hands. You really need to get your children those drops as well, because their future depends on that. And we really need to make sure that Pakistan is not one of those 2 countries where polio still exists. So please make sure that we do that as a nation, and we really need to come together as a nation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about today? I think it's very interesting, and it's because of the fact that in the last 2 decades, the entire sphere or the entire the business ethics have changed totally, and it's because of the fact that now we have internet, and everybody usually most of the time has got access to the internet as well. People are freelancing, people are YouTubing, people are making sure at a very tender age of 15 or 16 they're making millions of rupees just by creating more content. But how can internet help us add on to the economy? Because that's one thing which the countries have capitalized on, and they've done it wonderfully well. We talk about IT exports, ladies and gentlemen. Just last year, the IT exports were at 3.5 billion. But for now, what we really need to do is that, when we say that our economy is totally dependent on agriculture, well, not totally, partially, yes. But how can we use internet? Why are we drop shipping from other countries? Why can't we do it from Pakistan? Why cannot we ourselves be in the first place to make sure that we are that one window solution for the rest of the world? And that's where we really need to come together. The governments have given us quite a lot of relaxation in terms of when we talk about taxes. We do have IT zones coming up as well. A lot of people from outside the country are coming back to Pakistan, making sure that they're going to invest where information technology sector is booming over here. And how do we capitalize it to an extent where it comes to kind of start to give back to the economy? And that's something which any and every country would want. So for that, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who in the first place happens to be an author, a publisher, but then she happens to be a serial entrepreneur. and then she happens to be an IT analyst as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by Ms. Tania Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us. I've given the introduction. Now I want you to kind of explain to our audiences in 46 different countries how internet can be beneficial for our economy and why we were not able to utilize it, and how do you think, which are those tools that by applying we will be able to reap out some good benefits out of the internet.
All right. Most importantly, why we were not able to use it until now, it's mostly because we didn't have awareness.
Okay.
And I'd say, fortunately, we had this pandemic and those things that at least now we know what's the power of internet, and people cannot survive without using the internet.
True.
Normally, a person spends 8 hours a day on digital media.
Yeah.
Like, that's a lot of time.
True.
We're spending daily on it. Why not spend it productively? The first thing I want to talk about is, let's start at root scale level, where one individual can be self-sustainable using the internet. Whether he's doing freelancing, half of the world is doing freelancing right now. Pakistan got 1 billion through freelancing this year. So until now.
Okay, are we talking about dollars or are we talking about $1 billion rupees?
$1
$1 billion, that's quite a lot of huge sum.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not sure if it's dollars or no, but it was 1 billion. So we did generate 1 billion to freelancing. So individuals can freelance whatever skills they have, design, writing, whatever they have, and be self-sustainable. So they're not a burden on the economy. They're not looking for jobs. They're not going to anyone asking for help. Then coming to businesses, we've seen that a lot of startup culture has come up in Pakistan. A lot of people are working on these things. Government is also supporting. And when we have more businesses coming up, we have more production, we have more job opportunities, we have employment opportunities. And then what happens, what I like the best about internet, I believe, according to my research, that this is a solution and alternative to capitalism, where there's no barrier to entry or exit, where there's complete transparency, and customer can reach directly to the business. They can ask what you've sent us, why you've sent us this. They can leave a review. So all these things make more trust on the economy. And
only if you're sending them what you promised them.
Yeah. But with the time, I think saturation gets cleared out. Eventually, with time, we know that these are the brands that we can trust, and these are the ones who are making a fool out of us.
I think that's wonderful, and that's wonderfully explained as well. But, you know, let's come down to where we talk about Internet of Things or e-commerce.
Yeah.
You know, we talk about online banking, we talk about drop shipping as well. But what we really need to kind of focus on in the first place is, because we have targeted, and you said that we really need to start from the grassroots level, let's talk about the payment methods. Because now, fortunately, I think we were told that, okay, all of those international mediums which are going to get our money will be existing in Pakistan, but we do not really see them very operational, and that's the first ever barrier for the people who are into e-commerce. So what do you have to say about that?
Okay, so yeah, we do understand that it's still taking time for PayPal or stuff like that to come to Pakistan, but we do have other options like wallets, Jazz Cash, Easy Pay, Western Union, and some other options like Payoneer, Skrill. So we do have some payment methods, and people are doing e-commerce business, receiving international payments, and it is feasible. But we don't
Takes a lot of time though.
It takes time, but if we use Payoneer or Skrill, in the first transaction it does take time, but in the future transactions it's okay. You can also use 2Checkout. So we do have some alternatives, but I do believe that we need to bring PayPal. For that, I think we'll have to wait a little bit more. Once blockchain comes into place, once our banking system is secure enough, then we can expect to have more payment.
Thank you very much for saying that, because I wanted to talk about it, and the government really has not been paying a lot of attention to blockchain. And ladies and gentlemen, the world has already utilized blockchain for their benefit. Okay, for everybody, for any layman, let me make sure that you understand what blockchain is. So imagine that if I have this piece of document over here with me, what blockchain will do is the blockchain will give the record to each and every individual out there in the world, making sure that the record is safe with everybody and that it's authentic. That's what blockchain does. So imagine, now we know and now we register that blockchain is the safest ever you can actually get to on internet as well, and that's very important for everybody. But how do you think that we have really been very timid with our approach, where how we have not accepted blockchain and we have not accepted them to come into our country? Why do you think we have done that? And it has so far damaged quite a lot, and that's something which we do not realize. So how would you want to shed light on that?
I think that previously nothing was done in ID sector in Pakistan, but recently we do see that some things have been under development. Microsoft is coming here. We're also seeing Apple promising to come. We've seen Facebook promising to open their monetization for Pakistan. These are good signs. Our government is investing in the ID sector. They're doing these tax exemptions and setting up software parks. And I think it is high time that we do invite blockchain and their specialists. We do have some people who are doing these things on their own, yeah, on individual level. But we need people on a community scale where we can. I believe that we should be acting on this, and if government is listening to me, they must act on it. Build a community for blockchain. It's the most securest way, and
safest as well.
Yeah, we've lost a lot of opportunity until now. We see other countries, they're surpassing us. Like in freelancing, I believe we are fourth in the world. We're doing good. We're proportionately a small country, but we have a fourth number in a big industry. That's good. But on other industries as well, we need to groom, mostly on e-commerce. Pakistan has a lot of resources. We have tourism, we have agriculture, we have the best quality textile.
Telemedicine.
And so many things. If we cut the middleman out, we start sending these products, these services directly into the customer's pocket, whether it's in Europe, in Malaysia, and everywhere. I think that's a win-win for both us and the other economies.
Exactly, and that's wonderful. Thank you very much for saying that as well, because this eventually will, ladies and gentlemen, add on to the economy of the country, and that's something which we want as well. And when we talk about freelancing, obviously that is foreign remittances, because each and every individual is either getting paid in dollars, pounds, or whichever country they're working for, you know, so it's great that eventually the money is coming back to Pakistan, and that's the way forward, because we really need to think that how do we transition from, you know, the very conventional agriculture practices to very modern agriculture practices, because, you know, now you go on internet and you can get everything. We do have business models where, let's talk about, and I will have to do justice with it, Kareem, let's talk about Daraz, let's talk about Food Panda, and we do have these successful business models who've actually they did came up with their enterprising ideas, and they made sure that they're going to have a greater impact on people. So how do you think that we keep on building these brands? Because that's really important. Over here in Pakistan, what I've witnessed is that, God forbid, if you order something from somewhere, and I've gone through it myself, I'm 6'3", I'm very tall, you know, usually the definition or the description of the product is something which you think, hey, you know what, it might fit me, but as soon as it's at your doorstep and you wear it and you open it up, you know, it does not fit you at all. Either it's smaller, either it's larger, you know, so there's always this confusion. So for all of those brands who are out there who are doing this and who have been doing this with people, what is your message for them?
I want to say one thing, sales is a short-term thing. And brand is a long-term thing. So don't focus on sales. If you're fooling someone out and trying to get 1K out of them or 2K out of them, why not be honest with them and make 20Ks and make 2 lakhs and make millions out of those people? When you offer them quality, people stick with you. So just focus on quality.
So all we need to do is, you know, this is what we say in Urdu, that, you know, we have to be lambi race ke ghode, you know. So please make sure that you invest on your brand. And to invest on your brand, ladies and gentlemen, you'll obviously have to make sure that your customer is satisfied every time he or she is receiving your product, and make sure that you add value, because if you're not going to add value, you know, your product is of no use to anybody out there. You know, I did literally touch upon a little bit on drop shipping as well, where how we using other countries to make sure that they do it for us. How do you think we can benefit ourselves, and how do we build that capacity for our own people that they're able to do that?
Okay, what I believe, I have like 1 lakh, 2 lakh students. I teach all of them this thing that stop.
I like how you said that, you know, I have 1 lakh, 2 lakh students. That's almost more than 1,000 classrooms to fit in all of those students.
So we have virtual and physical trainings both. And alhamdulillah, I've helped a lot of businesses also set up their presence on the internet. But what I want to say is, I tell all my students, instead of going to China, getting a product, sending it to Europe, sending it to America, it is cheaper, but it has a lot of things involved. First, you have to invest, and the money is not coming directly to Pakistan, which is not beneficial for our economy. So what I would suggest is, do local drop shipping. Buy stuff from Faisalabad and send it to US. Buy stuff from Xiaomi and send it to Europe. So think global and act local. Get your own products, list them on Etsy, list them on Amazon, list them on a lot of other places. Say Amazon, we don't only have Amazon. There's e-commerce means a lot of other things as well. We have WooCommerce, we have WordPress, we have a lot of other ways, Shopify. So you can even directly sell from Instagram. So, you know, why go such a long way and make you get your payment stuck? And what if your product is rejected?
True.
You know, what if there's a JIT issue? What are you going to do then? So have things in your own control, give some benefit to your own country and to your own self as well.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for saying that, but it's easier said than done, to be very honest, and we really need to build up that capacity. A few people are doing that and they're trying to do so as well, but there are a lot of hindrances, because now what happens is that, God forbid, imagine, so you know, my wife, you know, what she does is that she gets all of this stuff from Turkey and elsewhere and sells it to people. But imagine that as soon as all of that stuff is over here in Pakistan, the customs does not release it, you know, and they make sure that they're going to hold that shipment for another 1 month or 2 months. And that's where we are not helping anybody within the, you know, where we say that, you know, in the ease of business, we have dropped down in the index number as well. But I do not see that happening. So how do we make sure that the environment is conducive for each and every individual who's trying to do something at least on internet? Because one, obviously people are not very well aware, you know, they do not have that very basic education of what they might have done. Then eventually if they do have a startup, God forbid, you know, there are so many other hurdles where I see that public offices are actually supposed to help us. You know, they're supposed to create convenience for us rather than making it harder for us to do business. What would you want to say on that?
Okay, yeah, one thing most importantly is that we do have growing pains because this is a comparatively newer industry to our country. It has existed for other world, but for us it's a newer thing. So we do have growing pains and we will go through them. I won't say there won't be any. We will go through them. But like me, and I've seen other people as well, there's a lot of people in the industry. It's been 4 years that I'm creating free content on educating people why IT is important, what you can do with it, how you can make magic with internet. So a lot of other people are doing so as well. I think on individual scale, if we're doing these things, if government also takes initiatives on IT awareness and specially license with their departments, like you said, the public officers and the people who are looking after exports and imports, if we have a good license system with them, then we can ensure that we're growing at a very good scale.
And imagine, you know, when we talk about public offices, obviously we would certainly want the other person on the other side of the table to be educated about what we are talking about. You know, for somebody who might have actually worked for a department for 20 long years, but he or she does not have any idea about what e-commerce is or how it really needs to go, or if the policies are not in place, ladies and gentlemen, it will just make it more difficult for the people to do their work, which I believe everybody needs to kind of go through those courses as well. And where you know, you said that you give away free courses and lectures, I have a very interesting debate on this. Because the other day, Vakar Zaka happens to be a dear friend and he's a teacher to me. He has taught me quite a lot of things. And then Azad Chaiwala is big on internet as well. And that's what they're trying to say, what you are saying, that, hey, you know what, let's make things ourselves and let's give it to people ourselves as well. But now what happens is that, you know, they were in this very funny debate where Vakar Zaka was like, hey, you know what, so I've been telling everybody about Bitcoin and how they need to invest and whatnot, even though that, you know, it's not legal over here in Pakistan, so I don't know how he's been managing to do that, even though he's not in Pakistan at this very moment. But he said a very wonderful thing. He said that, you know, till the time I was giving these lectures for free, nobody was interested. As soon as I had a support group on Facebook and everybody had to pay $15, everybody was keen to learn. So I think there's a big catch over here that Pakistani people, if you get some material which is very tangible, we would always want it for free. But if there's education and knowledge for free, nobody's going to take it. What would you want to say on that? Because you have more than 100 or 200,000 students on internet.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's a topic really close to my heart. I would like to use an Urdu word here.
Sure.
हम कहते हैं कि माले मुफ्त दिले बेरहम. So yes, that happens. After 4 years of creating free content, past year I decided now I will be giving paid training. So
exactly.
Yeah, I am.
And now you might be getting paid quite a lot, you know, because the very moment when you were doing it for free, you know, people might not be interested and, you know, you might not get those views as well. But all of a sudden, now when you're charging, you know, the money's coming in and the views are coming in as well. Wow, that's wonderful. So we really need to kind of think, what are we doing with our lives? You know, we really need to think about who our role models need to be. So please make sure, people, that you decide very wisely as well. Towards the end, what I would like to kind of ask over here is for every individual, because people over here are very confused. Yaar, kya kare? हमें तो कुछ पता ही नहीं है. So, you know, and I will translate it for people who are out there as well, for our English audiences as well. You know, people over here usually in Pakistan are confused because they might not have the very basic knowledge of internet or computers, and then usually they have this question, oh, you know, because we do not know anything about it, So that's why we're not doing anything within that sphere of the business as well, which obviously is a very negative thought process. There's so many courses, we have Madam over here, who's giving away courses as well, but now they're not for free. You were not able to jump on that bandwagon. But how do you think that for any individual who's at home can learn and do their business by their own selves as well?
Okay. First, most important thing, YouTube is the best platform to learn.
The best teacher?
Yeah, the best teacher, I would say. Google and YouTube. A lot of people don't do Google in Pakistan because they think it's hard, even though it's very simple. But YouTube is more simpler. You can see everything in video version. I still have 25 free courses available. Anybody can go and see them on YouTube. Not only me, but whatever interests you, whether you have a family business, whether you're trying to start a new one, whether you have an idea, just do some research first. Don't just jump in and get overwhelmed and then sit back.
But what kind of research are we talking about over here? You said that, okay, you go on YouTube. So for example, if I have to sell my products, I get them made over here in Pakistan, making it easier for our audiences. How do you think I start my business?
Okay, if you
from
want
the
to
very
sell
basics.
If you want to sell your products, you do have the products, right?
Yep.
You take their pictures. The first step is take their
Good
pictures.
ones.
Yeah, take good pictures, put them on Facebook and Instagram, link your Instagram with Shopify. Shopify is a pretty simple platform, simple drag and drop. So link Facebook, Instagram and Shopify, upload pictures, start selling.
That's it.
Simple as that.
That's it. Wow, that's wonderful. So that's how simple it is, ladies and gentlemen. The platform we figured out today for anybody who wants to start selling their own products is Shopify. And all you need to do is give your links in the bios and people will definitely come to you if they think that your product is going to add value to their life. Remember, it's all about branding. It's all about how much value your product is going to add to people's daily routine. Please make sure that you do that. And only you can even sell sunscreen these days as well, and that too online. Because a lot of our mothers, parents, they have these Purane totkas where put this on your skin and your skin will glow. So just write that caption and that a lot of people are going to get onto that.
Just add a bit of story to it, like my Nani Amma told me this, and because this is the era of storytelling and people buy on emotions.
Thank you very much.
So go big on emotions, do some nice things.
And people are getting bigger on emotions as well, because these days people are even finding their rishtas online, So please make sure that you go big on emotions. That's what we are saying, and make sure that you contribute to the economy, because the country we live in, ladies and gentlemen, deserve a lot of us as well.
I would like to add one last thing.
Sure. Why not?
I believe that in the next 10 years, Pakistan will be in the top 3 economies in the world. If we focus on all these internet things, because this is a high time. We can say that history is being redefined. If we claim our place in the global world, we can make sure that Pakistan becomes one of the top economies in the world, just focusing on the IT sector.
And that's what we certainly want to do, ladies and gentlemen, because the future generations down 3 decades or 4 decades would be like, hey, you know what, the Gen Z did a wonderful job. And Gen Z is not me and you, it's the generation lower than us as well. So please make sure, because I consider myself to be in Gen Y, or probably Gen X. But yeah, to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, if you think you can do it, if you have the passion, you dedicate yourself to doing something, or you commit to do something, please make sure that you do it 100%. Thank you very much, Ms. Sania Khan, for being with us. It was lovely to be in conversation with such an enterprising woman who's got such brilliant ideas for the future generation of Pakistan. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we're heading out towards a short break. These computers we work on, these processors, they actually emit a lot of heat. What do we do with this heat, ladies and gentlemen, is something which we will be talking about in the next segment. A lot of carbon emissions, which did go down when there was a travel ban, but once again, it's on a rise. What do we do about climate change? Because climate change is for real. That's something we are talking about in the second segment. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Good morning.
curiosity.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you very much for staying tuned to PTV World. You're definitely watching World this morning alongside Shahzad Hassan Khan. Earlier, we were talking about how internet can add on to our economy. And yes, Ms. Dania Khan had quite a lot of visionary statements to give away for people to learn and to explore. But ladies and gentlemen, now what we want to explore kind of is about climate change. The IPCC's sixth report actually came out as well, where we talk about, when we talk about IPCC, ladies and gentlemen, for all of those people who might not be very well aware of it, I just remembered it for your sake as well. So it's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. You know, the first ever time, I think that the meeting took place in 2017 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And after that, obviously, the report kind of overlooks on to how climate change impacts. Then moving on, they talk about the ecosystem and the biodiversity, keeping in mind that how 2019 was the second warmest year of the history of mankind. Not just that, from 2008 onwards, 2 million people almost displaced themselves to move on to cooler places. With that, you know, obviously the impact on agriculture is quite valid. We really need to talk about it. And yes, the IPCC report says that it's code red for humanity. It's going to get warmer, and it is hotter even now. So first we have a report, and then we will introduce to you our wonderful guest who's very well educated and very well aware about climate change and how SDGs complement or climate change does not help us complement SDGs is something we will be talking about. So first up, this report.
Millions of people are already suffering from the catastrophic effects of extreme disasters exacerbated by climate change. In 2021, scorching temperatures caused deadly heat waves in Canada and Pakistan and set off wildfires in Greece and Siberia. There was severe flooding in Germany and China, while in Madagascar, a particularly prolonged and intense drought has driven 1 million people to the brink of what is being described as the world's first climate change-induced famine. Climate change and its effects will continue to grow and worsen over time, creating ruin for current and future generations. Burning fossil fuels, agriculture and land use and other activities that drive climate change greenhouse gases are at the highest levels they have ever been over the last 800,000 years. Climate change involves not only rising temperatures but also extreme weather events, rising sea levels, shifting wildlife populations and habitats, and a range of their impacts. There is an overwhelming scientific consensus that global warming is mostly man-made. Climate scientists have come to this conclusion almost unanimously. It is important to remember that no one list of the effects of climate change can be exhaustive. It is very likely that heat waves will occur more often and last longer, and that extreme precipitation events will become more intense and frequent in many regions. Countries need to go for everything they can to help stop the global temperature rising by more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. All the countries of the world must collectively reduce their greenhouse gas emissions to absolute zero before or by 2050. Richer countries should do this faster. By 2030, global emissions must be half as much as they were in 2010. Stop using and producing fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas as quickly as possible. World should work together to fairly share the burden of climate change. Richer countries must provide financial and technical support to people in developing countries who have suffered and will continue to suffer losses and damages caused by the climate crisis.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was a small report, and yes, the alarms are deafening and it's code red for humanity. Alhamdulillah, we're very lucky that we actually have our Premier Mr. Imran Khan, who thinks this way, and he thinks that it's the utmost priority of our country to kind of make sure that we, you know, kind of add on to reducing the climate change impacts as well. But we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by somebody who, as I said, is very knowledgeable and educated. Ladies and gentlemen, we're lucky that we've been joined by Ms. Adina Tahir to actually talk about it. Hello, assalamu alaikum, good morning, how are you?
Wa alaikum assalam, good morning to you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for joining us, wonderful to have you. So IPCC's sixth report, what does it say?
It is one of the most important recent documents that have been released.
Okay.
When it was being launched, they said that because of this report, we can say that this is the only window of opportunity that we have left for humanity if we want to ensure that we want to go towards a livable future. So this is the only time that we have to protect the health of the planet and the health of the people, and it is rightfully the code red for humanity, because these 10 years, they have been defined as the decade of action. True. So it is literally a now or never struggle for the planet Earth and the people.
So let's get started. Obviously, the struggle is real, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody needs to come together, where a few of the countries do kind of agree with the agreements in place, and a few of the countries do not at all. And they're like, we're not going to comply to whatever protocol, you know, we signed on, and, you know, whatever is good for our economy, we're going to do that. A very individualistic approach on behalf of those nations and countries as well. But let's get started from the very impacts of climate change and then move on towards solutions. So the impacts now.
Yeah, so the assessment report is very important because it highlighted how climate change has been impacting countries and what are the differences in how the impacts are experienced in low-income countries, middle-income countries, and the high-income countries, right? So if we take a look at the impact on people, so since 2008, we have seen 20 million people on average each year being displaced because of climate change disasters. These can be floods, these can be droughts, which make areas unlivable. And these have been particularly extreme in low-income and middle-income countries. You know, the statistic is that our urban areas, they are becoming areas of high climate change risks. And these risks have been rising, especially in low-income and middle-income countries. So in the case of Pakistan, we see that the main cities that we have, Karachi, Lahore, they are all plagued with their set of environmental problems. If we look at Lahore, we have air pollution, which is almost a very persistent winter problem now. If we look at Karachi,
number one on the highest air pollution?
Yeah.
It was.
Yes, and this is now a continuous trend. We see this every year, right? So these are two impacts. The other impacts are obviously on biodiversity. So around 28% of all of the animal and plant species that we know now, that is at risk of being endangered and also extinct. So 28% of the animals and the plants that we are used to, that we interact with, and you know, we are not just interacting and observing.
Or are surrounded by them.
Yes, and they provide certain ecosystem services to us. They're a source of meat, they're a source of recreation. So we are losing all of that. And then the people who are in the coastal areas, they're particularly prone to different types of coastal climate crisis, for example, cyclones and hurricanes. And the impact on food is a very important aspect. So the report finds out that the prevalence of, for example, toxigenic fungi on your food crops is growing because global warming is creating an environmental condition that is very favorable to pests, favorable to diseases and vectors such as mosquitoes. Yes, because their breeding is supported by hotter and humid conditions. That is why we saw the locust outbreak a couple of years ago in Pakistan. Yes, so it's causing an impact on people's health, it's causing an impact on our opportunity to grow crops, to have food supplies, to have jobs for people, and it's causing a lot of poverty as well in many ways.
Exactly. Thank you, Varun, for talking about all the impacts. You know, even though that, you know, because we were short on time, we couldn't really do justice with the subject itself. But talking about Pakistan, first things first, everybody needs to feel confident that we are not the major contributor towards climate change. You know, talking about Pakistan, I think we might be at 0.001%. But that does not help us because we are geographically located in a position where we are the most vulnerable towards climate change, and we see that in the last 2-3 days, ladies and gentlemen, and that too in March. You know, I had to turn on the fan, and I was like, yeah, you know, what's happening? So let's move on towards solutions. What solutions do we have, and how do you think that the world needs to come together?
So I think in vulnerable countries, the problem has been that we are looking at environment as one separate issue, and we are not looking at the bigger picture where the environment, the people, the economy are all interlinked, right? So in Pakistan, I think so far the climate activists, they have been very active, and what they have been doing so is that they have created awareness of the problem, but not the solution, right? So now we're at a point in history where everybody knows the problem, but nobody knows the solution. So it's very important to talk about solutions. So the first and I think the basic approach is a multi-sectoral approach. Basically, climate is impacting us not just in terms of our environment, it's not just damaging our forests and our land, but it's also affecting our job opportunities, our education, it's affecting gender equality, it's affecting rural and urban equality, right? So because of that, we need a multi-sectoral approach, and that is where the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals come in, right? Yes, because you have these 17 goals that that can be a blueprint for how to develop ourselves in a way that, you know, we are doing better in 10 years in terms of economic opportunities, in terms of equality and social justice, and also in terms of climate action. So I would say that if there's a quick way to understand the future, that is through 17 Sustainable Development Goals.
And which is why, you know, I would certainly want you to shed light on that as well, because we are supposed to, you know, by 2030, I believe that we really need to complete all of these, achieve all of these SDGs as well. in some of the goals, we are way ahead from other countries, but
Yeah.
in some of them, we might not have even started to kick off.
Yes.
You know, so how do you think, because all of these SDGs are really very important to the very existence of mankind, and which is why they are in place, and every nation in the first place was very exuberant of the fact, hey, you know what, we're going to do that no matter what happens. So where are we in terms of SDGs? Let's talk about Pakistan.
So Pakistan has achieved SDG 13 a while ago,
Yep.
and that was a highly celebrated move. But what we fail to understand is all goals are interconnected,
Yep.
right? So if this rest of the 16 goals are areas where we need to work on, then we really have to prioritize it, right? But the good part is that, for example, if I take climate action, right? If I talk about promoting ecopreneurship, which are businesses that are low in waste, businesses that are supporting indigenous communities, and businesses, you know, that are recycling stuff, that are upcycling stuff. Now, these are green businesses.
Yeah.
If you support green businesses, you're also supporting SDG 1, which is ending poverty. You're also supporting SDG 5, which is gender equality, because if you focus on women entrepreneurs,
True.
right? So I think there's a need to connect the dots. There's a need to see that if you're supporting clean energy, you're also improving your country's profile, your economy, and also the climate, right? So it's time that we start looking at the bigger picture
Yep.
and come up with intersectional and multi-sectoral
Sectoral.
approaches.
Thank you very much for saying that, because we really need to move on to renewable energy sources
That
as
is
well.
true.
And earlier, you know, there
Yes.
was this very amazing, uplifting kind of thing which came out that, okay, if you actually have solar units into your house,
Yeah.
and if you produce extra electricity, you know,
Yes.
in fact, VABDA is going to pay you.
Yeah.
You know, so that was wonderful, but that's not in place anymore. I think it was not very feasible or convenient for VABDA to do so.
Yeah.
But how, for an individual, you know, we can kind of progress onto renewable energy sources, because we want it to be cheaper so that everybody can afford it.
Yeah.
Where you said that, you know, from the when we talk about the lower segment or the middle order of the society, it definitely gets a little
Yes.
difficult for them to moving on to another alternate energy source.
It does.
Because, you know, it's not very convenient as of now, and all of those companies which exist do ask for a huge amount of money.
Yeah. I think the most interesting thing that we have observed these days is that the Russian and the Ukraine crisis,
Yep.
that has impacted oil prices, right?
Yep.
But that has absolutely no effect on solar energy cost. So this is a very interesting evidence of the fact that renewable energy actually makes countries independent
True.
of the global economy, because solar, wind and water are natural resources available to everyone, right? So the cost is something that the country determines based upon the policies that it comes up
Wonderful.
with, right? So in the case of Pakistan, what we're doing is that in rural areas, which are very far off from your main grids, and it's not economically feasible to connect them with your main grids that are usually hydropower, we're going towards solar-powered microgrids. So these are basically for the communities, for the villages, and they're locally managed, and these are very successful in many parts of Pakistan. So if we look at many rural development programs that are
Yep.
being carried out in Pakistan, they're supporting mini and micro grids. Then obviously in urban areas, you can have people who can afford solar panel installations on their homes. So obviously creating greater awareness, obviously allowing private sector to interfere more,
Contribute,
to have more businesses that are solar powered. That is something that we can look into. And the good news is that the solar panels are historically at their lowest cost today, because the cost of panels has been decreasing over the past couple of years continuously because of the
So now
advancements
we're
in
making them
technology.
over here in Pakistan.
Yes. So now we're going towards solar powered gadgets, we're going towards solar powered homes. So really the technology is here and it is for us to use. And when it comes to hydro, which is another renewable energy resource, I think having smaller dams and having again mini and micro grids is something that we can look to.
Wow, that's wonderful. Thank you very much for being with us, Mr. Dina Tahir. It was
so
wonderful to be in conversation with such a literary, educated and knowledgeable human. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you adopt some of it, because we need to individually help towards the prosperity of the country as well. But when we talk about solar power, ladies and gentlemen, has existed for more than 5 or 6 or 7 decades at least. I remember back in those childhood days where we used to have those watches which were solar powered.
Yeah.
I think it was just because of the fact that the competition was tougher in the market, so the entry barrier was quite high. It's quite lower as well. Please make sure that you move on to alternate energy or the renewable energy sources as well, which is definitely going to add on to quite a lot of positive impact on climate change. Please make sure that you do whatever is in your capacity, because I will be here the next day tomorrow, inshallah. Make sure to give you a very exuberant morning show once again, which uplifts your morale and energy. Look after yourselves. Make sure that you write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of World This Morning. And the fabulous repeat is going to be at somewhat around 10 past 10 at night. Yeah, make sure, because we recently just did change our times. so it didn't come out on that flow as well. But look after yourselves. This is Shazad Khan, and this mic drop. All right. Good morning.